Welcome back to HGC North America. We are in our first series with Gale Force eSports taking the series 1-0 so far up over Superstars on Dragonshire. Next, we'll be moving into the next battleground. Superstars generally picks first pick, so where do you think Gale Force eSports would choose to make the next fight?
I mean, I feel like a lot of the teams in North America have new priority now. My first thought would just be avoid any cheese, avoid any major risks. Normally for me, that's like maps like Battlefield of Eternity, but again, with that falling out of favor in North America, maybe that's be like avoid at all costs, or it could be, you know, go back to the comfort.
I think that's a good possibility because Gale Force eSports is one of the few teams who has started to prioritize Battlefield even more than they were at least initially. So we're ready to see what that battleground will be. It looks like, yes, Superstars did pick first pick. So Gale Force eSports is taking us to Braxis Holdout, a battleground in the past that has potentially made for some cheese.
It has. And,
from Superstars.
And, you know, Gale Force, they aren't messing around with it either. They've got the Zag backup pocket strategy. They showed it. So it's just kind of like, do we see respect to that? You know, do we instead see, you know, maybe Faye try and take it away? Or does Gale Force not even look at it and said, you know, it was a double global strategy. We ran it one time. It's just when it works, we aren't too worried about it. The amount of resources after coming out with a dominant and innovative strategy like that, and how many resources you see the next team deny it or even like give credit to it, shows how little respect it sees in like kind of scrims behind the scenes usually.
Last time on Braxis Holdout for Superstars, they focused on getting a good 4-man with Tas Vala, but suffered a lot in the 1-man, the solo lane, ending up having to get Chen to go up against, I believe it was Dahaka for Team Freedom, who, by the way, you know, Team Freedom, we talk a lot about their drafting and things that they could improve on, you know, picking some different comfort picks, but I always feel like Braxis Holdout is a good one for them. They have a good idea of when to focus solo and when to focus the 4-man. So we'll see if maybe Superstars takes a page out of their book, out of Team Freedom's book, as they go into this game versus Gale Force.
Yeah, the priority of solo has dropped significantly here in Part 2 of HGC, and I agree. I do like where Freedom. I think that we should see more of that, but I don't know if this is the map to do it on. Historically, North America has been absurdly comfortable with just going, you pick your 4 and we'll pick our 4, and then you pick your 1 and we'll pick our 1, and then we'll just go head to head. Nobody ever just went with like, what if we lane swap so that the matchup doesn't matter at all, like we had seen in other parts of the world. Gale Force, last time they played on this map, they did it in a 2-3 with a double global. Even Team Dignitas has shown with focus on the double global on Braxis recently to then isolate, make a rotation. So if it's working out, keep up the pressure. And if it's not, then look to split pressure with the global down below. And then you rotate out for ganks. Like one global comes down, you 5 versus 4. If it doesn't work out, the other global holds its own in the lane. And you just cycle that all game until you get an advantage.
Yeah, that unwillingness to maybe try to make those rotations is why we hear so much when we talk to the pros on NA teams, just like, well, whoever wins the draft is guaranteed going to win the game.
Yeah, and so now it puts it in a position to where Gale Force has moved away from that, at least, again, the last time they played this map, which, by the way, their picks right now are leaning directly towards that same strategy, which is with the Murd into anchor, with the Falstead, and then you get a Zagara later on. It doesn't even have to be played with the Zagara. It can go in any other direction, but Gale Force stopped going, well, there's your 4, here's ours, who can win? And started going, what is the actual, when are we winning this matchup and when are we going to lose it? And if that keeps happening, teams like Freedom and their priority will fall off because it's no longer about the winning one. It's more about having the better team fight and better sieging in the downtime and in that weird limbo that it can exist. And people like Dahaka fall off in that area really heavily. Well, Falstead doesn't, but Dahaka does.
Surely this will be Vala. Oh, Lunara instead of Vala. So Zarya, Ariel, Lunara, Superstars again focusing their first 3 picks on the bottom lane or the solo lane.
Yeah, it's just have the 1-4 split, and Ariel, Lunara, and Zarya all work great there. Anytime you can get Zarya, or any of the shielders, plus Ariel, plus somebody who can do a lot of damage. Typically it's Vala, but as you suggested, but we're going to see Superstars move into the Lunara over top of that. I feel like that's going to hurt him. Don't get me wrong, I think Lunara is awesome here, but that should only be after the second ban phase if they banned out one of your other batteries, and you know that Vala, Gul'dan, and Lunara are all up, so why prioritize it that highly? They're going to have to justify that here in this game.
At this point, Gale Force eSports banned Zeratul, but they were playing against Teammate too. So how much of that was banning Glaurung Zeratul and how much of it was banning Zeratul versus the strat if they want to run into the same strategy that they did versus Teammate?
I think it makes a lot of sense to rid of the Zeratul just in general because that composition's weak against hard initiation. You can just force the 5 versus 4, or you can force them to at least move their globals. You can do a lot with the Zeratul, and I think it's a soft response to the fall set too. It wouldn't work great in Superstars draft so far, and even they're going to ban. So not going to ban out the Zagara, even though it is an option here. Dahaka is still a thing too, so we'll see which one of those Gale Force wants to move into. But yeah, the Zeratul, I feel like is really going to hurt Superstars, that ban.
Malfurion's still up for Gale Force eSports to support, as is Lucio, which was the favored pick. What else do they get besides that? Visit Dahaka time? Otherwise, it was Chromie and they left Zag to the end. Does this work a second time?
I think so. I think it is. It's not a one-time strategy. I think there are other people who can do Zagara's role better than she was doing it in that game. But the double global strategy of Braxis, I think, will stick around for a very long while. So they're going to still go with the Zag over having the Dahaka pick up. But yeah, so why... It ignores laning so much. Like, for instance, in your own Hero League games, every game you play, the eye exists and everybody goes, we have to go fight our opponents here because this is what everybody else is doing. But a lot of the times, nobody sits there and goes,
what if we didn't?
What if we win the level 1, right? Like, what if we don't do that? What do we do when we don't win the level 1, right? The prime example of, like, when this question started to have to be answered was the Toronto meta. When Toronto was first pick, first ban across the world, and if you lost your level 1 100% into those comps. So you just never fought them. This is the exact same situation on Brax's holdout, as we know the 1-4, so why, when you know you lose the 1 or you lose the 4, would you ever keep committing to it? You don't. You just start neglecting it and moving way towards like a, well, we can commit more people top, you can win bottom, we're going to win top. Unless you have like a Sylve Hammer crazy strategy, it doesn't work out that well. The Sylve is going to make up for a bit. Damage is going to lack on the side of Superstars. And an insane amount of global control. But the Sylvanas is a nice, soft response to that double global. Again, because whenever they're going to push up on top, they won't be pushing hard. They'll just be outnumbering the top lane. But when you have the Sylvanas, now instead of rotating, so after the first 2 forts fall, you just keep committing. Because you literally are disabling all the shots on the keep. You make the Gale Force respect your 4-man.
So this is the exact same composition that Gale Force eSports played versus Teammate on Brax's holdout. Even getting the Chromie, the only difference is Chromie and Zagara's priority were swapped before, but maybe fearing that, you know, Superstars was going to just try to take the Zagara away. That might have been the possibility. Or even like, well, there's no hiding it. It's the same draft. We might as well just get the thing that we know that we need, which is the Zagara. And then if we have to, we can, you know, switch out maybe the Chromie if we have to. I
think this really is a nice response from Superstars. They expected this draft to come out, you know, after watching Gale Force, and then the fact that it is legitimately all same 5 heroes, there was nothing surprising. So they've come up with their answer for it. I do think the Lunara is going to hurt them quite a bit as the game moves on. I would have rather see a Gul'dan or a Vala, more importantly than all the rest. But the Sylve is a nice answer to what they're going to see out of Gale Force. Gale Force still has the option to commit to the 1-4, slowly lose it now, and then use the global exchange to be able to get a man advantage in ganks and play the Braxis holdout that way. But it's not nearly as dominant of this draft into the opponents as we saw versus Teammate, because Teammate just didn't have the tools to answer. Sylve really removes a lot of those weird questions in global strategies and just goes, no. Before you global top and start pushing a 4, I'm just going to take your keep. Like, you need to look at me rather than the other way around. Sylve is very good at that. Probably the best thing about her.
So you'd rather see, instead of, if there's a 2-man top again, instead of Sylvanas and Dahaka up there, keep Sylve bottom and just push really hard? Or would you like to see
you're going to expect Zag Falstad to pressure 2v1 on top.
Yeah.
Ignore them. You win your 4-man all day. You lose the top, that's fine, and it's going to happen. You both lose the fort. You should win your fort faster, but you should lose both forts. When that happens, while they're still working on the fort, you're on the keep. You literally are pushing faster so hard that you're no longer worried about this, okay, now we'll rotate. Now we'll rotate and buy time. You legitimately just go, you're coming to us. And when, like, we're always pushing for the better and bigger advantage, always. And that is a start. on Superstars draft. I love the innovation. It's just, it's scary. Whether or not it'll work out.
Superstars has had a week to figure out if this is the answer to Gale Force eSports. Falstad Zagara composition on Brax's holdout. Let's see if that gets a win for them in game number 2.
Man, I have not seen a draft that made me so excited in such a long time. But the question is, does it work into what we've seen already from Gale Force eSports here with their clever and annoying play on Brax's holdout here? They have the tools. So like the first thing when looking at the, following the norm is 1 goes top, the 4 go bottom. Gale Force expects that, so they're going to set their 2 top and they're going to set their 3 bottom. If you're Superstars, why not 4-man top out the gates, wait for the minions to spawn, then 4-man and just risk your opponents because they only have 1 global up there. Then you suddenly, again, small seconds where you can take advantage of your siege potential over your opponents, which was what exactly Superstars is going to do. But they're doing it with a 5-man and before the minions, so Gale Force gets a proper response, and that is all they're going to see out of this advantage.
As well as Sray playing the Sylvanas, who is in trouble now, moving in. Going to be the first takedown. Superstars would love to be able to tie that up, but Equinox can dwarf toss out all day to get away, wearing a lot of the damage from that early skirmish. Sray playing Sylvanas.
Yeah, never have I ever even close to heard that sentence being said, period.
Well, what it is Hosty is normally the Zarya player.
Yeah,
Goku is normally the Dahaka, so it just happened to be that Sray had to be the switch, but has this been practiced?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that is true. When looking at their comfort, Sray on, or Hosty is always the Zarya, when they can, and we do have Goku on the Dahaka. But does that make Sray your Sylvanas player is the real question.
Yeah.
They say yes, but I can't help but feel like I would much rather see Hosty, for instance, swap that role. But obviously they disagree. They think this will benefit their team the most. As we expected, the 2 versus 1 is happening. Dahaka is losing the 2 versus 1. Gale Force is just going to poke away. This is what their comp was built to do. This is why I would have liked to see the Gul'dan over having just the Lunara as the battery, because it's not going to allow Iacona to get as much AoE healing as they would hope. And they're actually losing the 4 now.
Yeah, because that Chromie damage has been incredible. Fan has been hitting his skill shots. He already has Bronze Talons too, so even when his skill shot doesn't hit, he can step up and get that extra damage from his auto attacks. Superstars are going to have to be forced to rotate down.
This is, okay, so this is a risk, but it's smarter than what they could have done if they kept down the same path. So Superstars either has to not lose a fort, because that's when Zagara comes online, both of the forts more importantly, and then keep control on one half the map, or they need to just siege up through the keep. They started losing on the race, so they instead go, okay, we aren't going to lose the whole fort. We're instead going to try and match on bottom and then keep this pressure down here. Now they're going to lose their front wall on top, but Superstars should be able to match a front wall once again on bottom, thanks to the passive of Syl.
Nice plays from Equinox to use his full health advantage as long as he could to stay on the point. He was also Detainment Strike on that point, but he stayed alive, Dwarf Toss out, and got 36% of the beacon progress for his team. So Gale Force also have that going for them, in addition to constantly sieging now up in the top lane once again versus Dahaka with that Falstad Zagara.
Yeah, we see the entire time Equinox is doing his best to kind of be a nuisance on some of those shrines, as he's just kind of patiently waiting up there, looking to be able to reveal anyone for a combo coming up from Fan there. Good poke is going to land here in this rotation. As we see Sray on that Sylvanas, still awkward to say, back out.
He took Mercenary Queen too, so now we see the full siege ready with the pickup of those Hellbats.
Man, we see Faye, though, struggling to stay alive. She's just not got the damage output or the wave clear that the Gul'dan would have had to make this siege up on bottom that much more threatening. So they're only matching the lane displacement of Gale Force, and that's not a good sign. You want to be winning it when you have a Sylph, and you draft her for that purpose, for the early game pressure.
Man, Equinox has been being such a problem for Superstars that he keeps walking back on the beacon, and that just buys time. Dahaka, you don't see him doing that at all on the top beacon, and so Superstars have to move back, push him away. That buys time to push the lane back out for a little bit longer. It's all a waiting game, a time game, trying to get ahead, and Gale Force eSports are continuing to win that game.
So now Gale Force is going to get the first fort. Superstars, again, yet to get that on the bottom half of the map here, as Faye is backing up to be able to aid. over the control here, so they're going to go even on forts. What you don't do is trade even on forts again for superstars. This is the exact situation I was talking about. Losing to Haka is really going to hurt there too. Good flank by Equinox, but rather than backing out and responding, you then send your entire 4-man to push the keep front wall. Because again, you will not win if you rotate and give up both forts. 10 comes online. Zagara actually has room to play with her global, and she becomes a different hero. It's the only map, really, where that kind of works for Zagara because the distance between the forts and the keeps.
In just a few seconds, we'll see what the heroic ability choice for Chromie is. Temporal Loop is a possibility with Ariel as the support for Superstars. Superstars are trying to find an opening. They've gone top, they've taken that beacon. They want to get mercenary camps again. They want to use this mercenary queen that Sylvanas has to try to take out the other fort.
This is just, I'm trying to, the level 10 time bomb is about to tick for against Superstars with Zagara picking up 10. She is legitimately a different hero at that point in time, and how she can play in team fights, but how she works on the map and the control she provides. And Superstars sacrifice their team fight for their laning presence by picking Sylvanas, and they lost it. So I'm really scared right now for Superstars in this game. When that comes online, I just feel like there's very little way, even having one of the most dominant team fights in the game, that they can match into this double global pressure.
Well, let's see what Superstars can do with this push they do have. Again, they constantly have to keep backing onto the beacons because of the excellent play from Gale Force as Equinox dwarf tosses out. Siege on the bottom, Siege up here in the top, along with the Mercs. Suray's trying to bring it down. Faye gets low, dodges the Sandblast, but not the auto. Lunara gets taken out.
B-steps dropped here by Fan, casually, as they're getting kills, closing out on the 10. Gale Force here continuing the relentless pressure of Mike Udall and Crowan with the Falstad Zagara up on bot. 10 has come online, and now without a global level down, this is going to be Gale Force looking to get a 100-0 Zerg Rush, especially after Icona drops. Gust as well, man. They just salt to the wound.
Gust right into the nice warm desert of Slowing Sands. Was the demise of Hosty, Equinox, and friends make a fast rotation to the boss to try to time out with the beacons too.
Oh, this is huge. If they can get the Crow in, which they did, it might pull him off the boss. It forced support ult as well. Oh man, Superstars got everything they could ask for in that small window. Things are still hurting, and they're still very much against them, but not picking up Crow in there would have led to a free boss and a lot worse structure damage in the upcoming minutes.
So remember too that Sylvanas defends versus the Zergs very well, especially with Barbed Shot. Splintered Spear will help out with that too from Lunara. They're just going to try to burn this down and limit the damage they take on these keep structures as much as they can. Avoiding Slowing Sands to avoid Fan's skill shots too. The skill shots of doom at this point.
They're got enough damage onto the Zerg Rush that they are going to be able to push them away. Saray there on the defensive. That is one thing that Sylvanas is pretty good at. She's good at both offensive and defensive play on this map, thanks to her level 4. If anybody is looking to siege up, it's very likely she can just get multiple daggers out, spread all the poison.
And Thornwood Vine too to help.
But now they have zero, not zero, but very limited burst. Wailing Arrow has to be not a utility spell, it has to be the killer. Now that they moved in a Thornwood Vine. Sylv has slow AoE dots, Lunara has slow AoE dots, so who has the burst to actually finish off a kill, and it's really going to be up to the Wailing Arrow. That is not typically optimal when you have Sylvanas. You want her as a, she can help kill the target, but she isn't the final burst, right? She hits the target and then CCs anybody else on the back line. Hosty got zoned out there by the Slowing Sands, and the rest of the team kind of just accepted his poor positioning, said, you are the sacrifice, we will see you later.
Superstars trying to find an answer, trying to find an opening, but they got pretty far behind in the first beacon phase. They're down a level, they're down a fort. Top fort is low, at least for Gale Force.
Look at him, just so much spread AoE clear. The pressure on the bottom. Dahaka is going to look to match, but keep in mind we always have again, as the next Shrine phase actually spawns is where then you'll see the split of the double globals to apply pressure. Right now, there's no reason to put them together because you're just risking losing more than one life. As we see Crone playing very, very safe, not seeing the Dahaka for some time.
He tried to fan takes bye-bye twice. Does that mean that Trick has to get double gear?
I think so.
Oh no, Hosty, no! Expulsion zone's there, so was Aegis, but it was way too late. He took so much damage on the retreat. Things are going from bad to worse for your Superstars. 7 kills to 1. Full level lead as the beacons get ready to activate for phase 2.
And this is where it comes back online. They can bank on a couple of things to be true. The positioning of the members of Superstars, and when that happens, you see Gale Force group up those Zagara and the Falstad. They're just going to do their thing. Both shrines controlled. They'll realize they're on bottom. Most likely send some split pressure to be able to match the Dahaka because, again, the strategy is based on just crippling Dahaka as a solo, but they're looking to force here without Chromie. This is all we're going to see Superstars get. Wailing Arrow is already used, so no execution left. There's the Gust.
That's going to allow Equinox to back up to the team. A lot of damage hits Superstars, but doesn't confirm any kills. That whole time, though, Gale Force eSports got 68% the beacons.
Falstad now joining Zagara. Up on top with a camp pressuring outward. It's going to force somebody on the side of Superstars quickly to answer. When that happens, we see the globals fail. It's just rinse and repeat for the strategy on Gale Force.
Goku sees Fan. He was in the bush. Drag does not connect on that little gnome, though. With slowing sands on the point, this is where Fan can start to throw out a lot of his skill shots again and start to make damage. Hosty, with that, absorbing a lot of that, has a lot of energy, and bye-bye is procced.
Bye-bye.
Chromie is out.
She's just done. She wanted nothing to do with it. But conveniently, in the northern lane, we find ourselves a keep slowly dying on the side of Superstars.
Yeah.
And the Gus as well. They're actually going to look to be able to get the pick. He doesn't have an ult, so that will cost him his life. Even worse now for Superstars. They did try and do what I was talking about with the Sylvanas, you know, not worrying about the double global, say, hey, screw you, you answer to us, but losing a member and then letting this happen is not how that works out. Basic Math says you're going to be down a man in this team fight, and they see that right now as they are going to try and retreat. Equinox gets the first Stormbolt. Stray, Haunting Waves out. So only one member going to be lost, but this is 100 Zerg Rush.
Oh no, the Zerg caught Stray too, and he got hit by Dragon's Breath. There's going to be one Haunting Wave. He did not take the second. He instead took Life Drain, and that won't be enough to keep him alive. 2 kills at the start of this Zerg Rush phase.
Yeah, and this could be game here. Just with the lack of tools on the side of Superstars here in their draft, especially if this gets a pick. Oh, Faye! Akaface goes in to try and confirm the kill, and it costs him his life. The Detainment Strike rebuttal here from Iacona.
16-13, Superstars firing back once again. They have lost both keeps, but so far not the game. They're looking for the kill. Goku is chasing down Chromie once again. Bye-bye starts, but it doesn't go away. Thanks to Expulsion Zone, at least Superstars get 1 kill.
They ended up getting a few, and that was really what they needed. But look, it's Ray still solo clearing as it's ripping through the shielding.
Hello, team.
I think this is the perfect picture of, you know, just reminding you at home that those Superstars did get 2 kills here. It is not over. As Ray is forced back into his space, Zagara is still getting catapult pressure on top, so Faye is still looking to clear that out here, which means they don't have the disabler that they were looking for when it comes to this keep that they're trying to force. Oh man, this is...
Goku, not like this. Maybe no adaptation. Crystal Aegis buys some time for some damage. They're staying alive. Sound barrier used. Goku dragging Zagara in. Ariel down. Goku storm bolted to his doom. Yes.
Now Sray is looking to join to be able to try and help the rest of the members out, but Crowan actually went for a very deep Nidus network there and is trying to trade out onto Hosty. It will work as the slowing sands are there. The flight. Is anything else going to be landing here? No. Mike Udall a little bit afraid to barrel roll into their faces, understandably so. And they're going to set their eyes towards the boss here with that 16 advantage. No keeps up. A 14-minute boss is still not game. Even with an open core like this, it's it's like your core is going to be minimum 50 to 30%, anywhere in that. The rest, but it doesn't mean that it's game over. You can very easily move past this and try and force that fight, get a couple of picks.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe they were just going to use it to buy time so they could have the next beacon phase.
Yeah.
But they are getting the mercenary camps here at the top left to push along with that. Superstars are trying to get these waves pushed out so this lane, it has as much time as they need to get 16 too, which Dahaka is trying to get for them in bottom.
It's all going to be on if Superstars can get the 16, then move past the boss and force the fight beyond it. It's 16 will be online. So now it's all about execution.
Watch where Dahaka can brush talk behind. Equinox slowing down Faye.
They have to go in. They're letting it get on the core already. And Faye takes so much damage too. I don't think they're going to be able to even try and force it the way they want. Trap's going to be hit by Goku. Fan just poking around here. Wailing Arrow's used after dropping the beat.
Sound barrier has been used. Goku spent a lot of time getting Fan away from the fight, but this whole time, Gale Force eSports are wailing away on the core. It's now at 30% and falling. Can Superstars hold here? Mike's being chased away. He doesn't have Gus. He gets brought down, but it does not matter. 0% on the core, and Gale Force eSports gets up 2-0 in this series.
You know, Superstars, once again, they knew what they were getting into in that draft. You could tell that they've seen it before. We saw it in week number 1, thinking they had the answer there with the Sylvanas. But in fact, it was not enough here. This double global pressure strategy from Gale Force eSports still going to be undefeated.
That puts them up 2 games over Superstars. We expected Gale Force eSports to win the series, but it was how dominant they could be. Obviously, Superstars had time to prepare strategies versus that one. It just wasn't enough. So now Superstars have to decide, what is it that we have to do to start getting some games on the board?
Yeah, you know, and they've got to find those answers because it is not looking good for them compared to every other team from part 1 to part 2. Theirs was the second most, I would say, meh. You know, they didn't really take a huge step back, which, you know, is always awesome, but it wasn't some leaps forward like some of the other teams have here. Gale Force being one and really kind of showing.
Yeah, you know, I talked to Sray and he said of the 2, Tempo Storm looks scarier too. So I think they were really hoping that they could, if not win this series, because they do have a lot of respect for Gale Force eSports, at least get some games on the board before they went down to them. But it's not over yet for Superstars. They still have one more chance. We're headed to a break. We'll see if they can take that chance to bring things back in game number 3.